overcoming disappointment in spiritual life. So much disturbance can be caused in an individual devotee's life by disappointment. So much disturbance has been caused in the Krishna consciousness movement due to mass disappointment. And this disappointment causes so much disturbance in the vital mission to spread Krishna consciousness to every town and village and heart in the world, in the universe. What is this disappointment? Why is it that when we're trying to go high, 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 and we come boom, low, everything seems black? Disappointment was the emotion felt by Arjuna. Shoka samvigna manasaha. Arjuna is described as his whole mentality, his whole mind, his whole consciousness simply filled with lamentation. The whole first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, from which the instructions of Lord Krishna to Arjuna are built upon Arjuna Vishada. Arjuna Vishada. The first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is known as Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The yoga, the subject matter of Arjuna's lamentation. Arjuna was disappointed. Not exactly spiritual disappointment. It was more like material disappointment. Of course, everything Arjuna does is spiritual because he's always in a pact of love with Krishna. But the material circumstances were such that it had come to such a situation where he couldn't see any good in any situation. The whole thing was so bad. How could life come to such a situation where it's such a situation that I can't find any happiness? Forget all this win-win stuff. Everything's lose-lose in Arjuna's eyes. So he's completely disappointed. Krishna does explain later in the Bhagavad Gita that this lamentation, Vishadi Dirga Sutricha, in describing the characteristics of someone in the mode of ignorance. He's covered by the lowest modes of material nature. One of the words Krishna uses is Vishadi. He's a habitual lamenter. Or he's Shoka samvigna manasaha. He's always, his consciousness is absorbed in grief. Now, the whole material world is full of grief, and we take to Krishna consciousness to come out of the grief. Then how do we become so disappointed? One thing is, it is utopian to think that we will go into Krishna consciousness and everything will be completely smooth and wonderful, and chant Hare Krishna and be happy means that you just pick up your bead bag and chant Hare Krishna, and then all of a sudden all the problems go away forever. We may have to go through many tests. The tests are there to help us. The obstacles are the path to help us to overcome them. If we don't have obstacles to overcome, then we won't overcome. If we don't have solid or situations to deal, if we don't have difficult situations to deal with, then how are we going to overcome the real difficulties which are in our minds, in our consciousness? The Kam, Krodh, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, the lust, greed, anger, envy, pride, illusion. How are we going to overcome the ahankar of thinking I am an enjoyer separate from Krishna? How are we going to overcome material attachments? It's a long, long way to go from being a conditioned soul to being a pure devotee of Krishna. Krishna helps us, but we have to do our work also. And part of the work is facing the obstacles. The obstacles are the path, in one sense. The path is hearing and chanting about Krishna, but Krishna consciousness means tamasima jyotirgamaya, coming out of the darkness into the light. And don't expect the path to be smooth, especially in Kali Yuga. In this regard, Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati states in praise of Chaitanya Chandra, the most merciful, the most magnanimous avatar, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He calls out to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kala Kalya Balerna Indriya Vairi Varaga Shri Bhakti Margeha Kantaka Koti Ruddha Ha ha Kvayami Vikala Kim Aham Karomi Chaitanya Chandra Yadiya Nadya Kripam Karoshi. He says that in this age of Kali, it is the age of Kali, it's the age of quarrel, it's the age of hypocrisy, it's the age of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, this particular Kali Yuga, but Maya doesn't make it easy, and especially in Kali Yuga, there will be so many disappointments, so many setbacks. We can expect that. First of all, the senses are very, very strong. Our enemies, the senses, are very, very strong. And the path of devotion, Prabodhananda says in this Kali Yuga, is set with innumerable thorns. We have to walk on a thorny path. It's not an easy path. Don't expect a smooth path. So he's calling out to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that in this situation where my mind is very disturbed, what am I going to do if you don't show your mercy to me now? He's calling out for the mercy of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that gives a clue how we're going to get through this. We have, first of all, understand that there will be disappointments. Rather than thinking there won't be disappointments, we should be surprised if the path at any point seems to be smooth. If things seem to be going nicely, it's like the calm before the storm. We can think like that. Now, Krishna consciousness is blissful from the very beginning, but at the same time, our inability to engage in it may cause disappointment. That's one major cause of disappointment. Why do devotees become disappointed? Well, we can become disappointed with ourselves. That I'm trying, but the senses are so strong, or the situation is such that everything seems to be going against me. We can be. I thought I would be more advanced by this time, but I'm not. I don't seem to be going anywhere. My progress is very slow. We can become disappointed with ourselves, and in this way lose our spirit. We're talking about overcoming disappointment. Disappointment means that we lose our spirit, our enthusiasm to go forward in Krishna consciousness. Utsahan nisyad dharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyaga sato vrite shadbhya bhakti prasiddhyati. Among the 6 qualifications required for attaining perfection in Krishna consciousness, the first is enthusiasm. If we lose the enthusiasm, then there's no question of being determined, of being patient, in continuing to follow all the required stipulations. We won't have the determination, we won't have the resolve to give up all the bad things which are required for advancement in Krishna consciousness, and we can slip down and into a very low state. Disappointment is very, very dangerous. If we think, well, I just can't do it. I can't do it anymore. Sometimes we meet devotees, they say, I just can't do it. And you can preach to them and tell them. And they've got a thick wall of the mode of ignorance around them. So they can chant Hare Krishna, but there's something telling them that I can't, I've had enough, it's enough, I just can't do it anymore. I'm fried, to use classic ISKCON slang. What has happened? We started with great hope. we heard that by taking to Krishna consciousness we'll become completely blissful. Maybe we didn't hear the other admonishments that also we have to have determination, we have to take it step by step. Maybe we were naive in our taking to Krishna consciousness. Even when people do take to Krishna consciousness, in many cases, there'll be warnings, don't do that, don't go in there. Anyone nowadays can look on the internet and see there are so many problems in ISKCON, this, that, but still ignoring that. People take to Krishna consciousness thinking that, I've got to do it. This is such a great promise. I've got to do it. I've got to go ahead with it. There may be this problem and that problem, but I have to find God. I have to find Krishna. I have to do this. They become very enthusiastic, ignoring the warnings of others, and later they may think, well, I should have listened to them. Actually, in one sense, we should listen to the warnings of others, that we should go in with our eyes open. Don't just accept everything blindly. But at the same time, we should understand that nothing in this material world is perfect. Even in an organization which is dedicated to the highest truth, it doesn't mean that everyone is on the level of the highest truth. There will be difficulties and disturbances, and even if we are in contact with the highest truth, we can be distracted from that. We have our own weaknesses in which we're not able to take advantage of that. And we find in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his own personal servant who was traveling with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There was only him and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveling together, and this Kala Krishnadas, he got diverted by the very low class attraction toward gross sex. Astonishing. Astonishing. Maya is so strong. So we may become disappointed. We may not even fall into gross sex, but we may be disappointed at our own inability to overcome the desire for that. It's the nagging desire for that. Actually, in one sense, if we become disappointed, in one sense, it's good. At least we're seeing our drawbacks. Because if we don't see our drawbacks, then we can't start to overcome them. But if we become overwhelmed by them, then that's also useless. Because overwhelmed means then we lose our spirit to go on practicing Krishna consciousness very seriously. Now, more common in the Krishna consciousness movement at the present time, a more common cause for disappointment is disappointment in those persons who we respect as spiritual leaders. We put our trust in them, and then we find that they disappoint us, either in a very gross way. We've seen persons who have accepted the responsibility of initiating others in Krishna consciousness fall from their initiation vows. We've seen leaders, they may not grossly fall, but they act in a manner which is not expected of a spiritual leader. Sometimes devotees feel they've been exploited, they've worked very hard, they've given their life, their money, and they find that the person who they repose, or people, or the institution they repose their faith in, isn't as trustworthy as they had thought it was, and they become disappointed, and then naturally they lose their inclination to serve. Their inclination to serve Krishna is channeled through certain persons or through a certain organization, and if they find that it doesn't seem to be getting through to Krishna, what I'm offering seems to be being channeled into the sense gratification, either gross or subtle, of certain persons who present themselves as representing Krishna, but it seems they're not. In other words, there's hypocrisy and people become disappointment. That's been a major cause of disappointment in the Krishna conscious movement. And it's caused havoc. So many people have gone away, but we're talking about the individual. What do you do if you find yourself in this situation? Are you back to square one? That you're lost in the ocean of material existence, you don't know where to go, where to turn now. I thought I'd found God, but I haven't. I'm on the wrong path, or maybe there is no God. There may be so many doubts arise in the mind. No, we're not back at square one. We have had some spiritual experience, but we should be wiser. The fact that persons representing or purporting to represent Krishna don't always do so in the best of ways, and sometimes in very bad ways, that doesn't mean that Krishna doesn't exist, or that Krishna doesn't love us, or that we're not eternally related to Krishna in a bond of love. Krishna's love is there. We have to find our way back to it. We're not exactly at square one. So, what do? Where is the problem? We can ask ourselves, what exactly is the problem? One thing we can take strength from is Srila Prabhupada. We'll find in his book, The Perfection of Yoga, I think it's in that book, Srila Prabhupada quotes the English saying, failure is the pillar of success. So we can take strength from that. We don't expect always to, in every moment that we're just overcoming Maya and going up and going forward. It's a long fight, and we may be sometimes going forward, sometimes pushed back, sometimes going forward, sometimes pushed back, like that. But we have to go on fighting. And Krishna's helping us. Just like Krishna helped Arjuna by giving instructions about his attitude in Krishna consciousness. And also Krishna helped Arjuna in the fighting in so many ways. Krishna was on Arjuna's side. Arjuna was on Krishna's side, Krishna was on Arjuna's side. So, Jayastu Panduputranam Yesham Pakshe Janadanaha. Definitely victory will be there for the Pandavas because Krishna is on their side. So we have to be on Krishna's side, and Krishna will help us. We have to have that faith. Even though we may go through so many apparent failures, but failure is the pillar of success. So, ask ourselves, what is the problem? Am I the problem, or is the process the problem? Does Krishna consciousness not work? Well, if we think Krishna consciousness doesn't work, then we're really in trouble. And then we may try something else. One thing is, have faith, there is God. Maybe you don't find this way, that way. We would say, yes, chant the holy names of God. It may be. You may go to Christian tradition, some other tradition. Keep your faith in God, one way or the other. That we can suggest or request or pray to you. So what's the problem? Krishna is there. The holy name is there. We can go deeper into Krishna consciousness. All right, now people have disappointed me, I've disappointed myself, but Krishna has kindly manifested himself in this Kali Yuga, especially as his holy name. I can chant. Let me go on chanting. Go on chanting prayerfully, really praying to Krishna. Krishna, I wanted to find you. Where are you? Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume. Krishna, please reveal yourself to me. I really need you. A disappointment can be the trigger for us to call out in desperation, Krishna, Krishna, help, help, help. I have no other hope than you. I was going on in Krishna consciousness in a somewhat mechanical way. Now I'm feeling I'm almost dead, I'm almost killed. Krishna, please help me. If Chaitanya Chandra doesn't help me now, what will, if he doesn't show his mercy to me, what will I do? I'm completely disturbed. So calling out more, read Srila Prabhupada's book, hear, chant, praying to Krishna. Yeah, I know you're there. I'm not getting you. You lift me up. You lift me up now. Help. So, while calling out to Krishna for help, we also have to fully give ourselves to Krishna. It's just like we're fallen in the well. We're fallen in the deep, dark well of material existence. We're calling out, help, 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 help. And someone throws down a rope, and we have to grab hold of the rope, and we have to hold on very tight. And while the rope is being pulled up, we have to keep on holding tight, and it may be difficult, and there may be snakes trying to bite us or something, but we have to keep on holding. Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. We have to practice Krishna consciousness very strongly. Hold on to the rope of Krishna's mercy to pull us out of our deep, dark well of disappointment. Krishna is there, always waiting for us. He's always there. He's waited for millions, billions, trillions, zillions of lifetimes. Now we've come to him. Now Maya is pushing us back. But Krishna is there, waiting for us. He's especially attentive for those who have made some steps toward him. But we should know that Maya is going to present obstacles. If we are sincere, sincerity is the key. If we are sincere, we'll find our way back to Krishna. We'll take courage and think that, yeah, this has gone wrong, that's gone wrong, so many things have gone wrong, but I have to find Krishna. And I have to serve Krishna. It's not just, well, Krishna deliver me and then I'll be happy. But we also have to serve Krishna's mission to bring Krishna consciousness to others, even if we see that in bringing Krishna consciousness to others, they're likely to experience the same kinds of obstacles that we have faced. Taking to Krishna consciousness, it's often not easy. The society will go against us. We have to struggle with the mind and senses, and we may think, well, why not just leave people in Maya? Let them be happy in Maya. But that happiness is not happiness. It's just, we're drowning in the well, and anyway, you're feeling it's quite cool down here. Some kind of happiness drowning in the well. The rope comes down, oh, I'll have to work so hard to get out. Well, I think I'll just stay down here. Why be in such foolishness and ignorance? We have to try to help others come out of that also. We have to rebuild our faith. What does disappointment mean? It means that our faith in the process or in others who are supposed to be administering the process or in our own ability to follow the process, our faith has been severely damaged. We have to rebuild that faith, maybe go forward more carefully, maybe not so naively, and understand that, yeah, the path is beset by thorns, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to walk it. If you're coming out of a war zone and there are bullets flying here and there, but the only way to get out of it is to go through the bullets. Be careful, watch out, and duck the bullets. There may be one coming this side, one coming the other side. By Krishna's grace, we can get through all the bullets and come out of the war zone. Tamasima jyotir gamaya, come out of the darkness, come out to the light. There are many devotees who go on in Krishna consciousness. They find their way forward, not in the association that they came to Krishna consciousness first with. Most people who come to Krishna consciousness at the present time all over the world do so through the agency of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. There's no doubt about it. For all ISKCON's manifest and manifold ailments, ISKCON is by far the most dynamic movement for spreading and preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world. That's why it's good to be concerned about it and try to put some band-aid or do some surgery or whatever is required to get this movement back to its full glory and full strength. But we find many devotees, they come to Krishna consciousness and they shift. At some point they become disappointed or whatever. Maybe disappointed, I can't follow so strictly. Let me find some other sangha which we just chant Hare Krishna and there's not so many rules to follow. Or they may find saintly people, saintly devotees in another sangha. So many go away from Krishna consciousness. We may blame them, why did they leave ISKCON and this and that, but maybe we should take a look at ourselves. They feel that we failed them. It's objectively speaking, we could say. We failed them, we just can't say they're totally insincere. And also, if people go to another sangha, maybe to some Gauriya Math group, or maybe some Babaji group, or some other Vaishnava group, well, we may say, well, that's not good, but isn't it better than them going back to total heathenism and atheism and materialism, and they're still keeping their faith in Krishna. We may have disagreements with them. They may be inimical to us. They may be, doctrinally we may have deep differences with them, but at least they're chanting Hare Krishna. And we may say they're so bad, they left ISKCON. Well, we could say if we were doing what we were doing, then maybe they wouldn't have left it in the first place. But anyway, that is one response to disappointment, is to find some association which does nourish you. But be aware that if you leave the hypocrisy of ISKCON, you may say, well, there's so much hypocrisy in ISKCON and you want to leave it and go somewhere else. But in this Kali Yuga, hypocrisy is everywhere. And you may go to another sangha, and in course of time, you'll find hypocrisy there, because nothing's perfect in this world. And when we have an organization of devotees, there may be one or two or a few who are very pure, but most of them are not going to be. We're trying to become perfect, and in the meantime, we have so many discrepancies in our behavior and so many things. So there will be, it may seem like hypocrisy when we talk on a very high level and we don't act on a very high level. And closing the gap, that's really what Krishna consciousness is all about, isn't it? We know there's an ideal, we believe in that ideal, we're venturing toward that ideal. We may have to represent that ideal to others, so we ourselves should be ideal in our behavior. If we're not, or if we see others who are not, then it's often very, very disturbing to people who expect, they maybe naively expect a very, very high standard. So we should look at ourselves also, that maybe we think, well, someone cheated me. Well, maybe we're cheating others also. And then we say, well, just go away from Krishna. That's not a solution, to go away from Krishna. That is the problem. That is the problem that we've had, life after life. So if we don't make our resolution to go forward, to overcome this disappointment, then we're going to get stuck in the material world. And it could have been going on like this life after life, that we come to Krishna consciousness, tatratam buddhiyo, tatratam buddhi samyogam lamante purvadehi kam. We practice yoga or spiritual life. We go away from it. We get born again. We again take it up. We again go away. We again take it up. We can go on life after life like this. At some point we're going to have to go through this disappointment to say that, well, whatever happens, I'm going to go on chanting Hare Krishna. Whatever happens, let others do and say and whatever they like, but I have to make my determination to go to Krishna. Let me do what I am supposed to do. It's not that everyone's a hypocrite. I may be hypocritical myself. Others may be hypocritical. But Prabhupada's not hypocritical. Krishna is very kind to come to this world and teach us, to give us Bhagavad Gita. So if we don't have that much faith, then we're finished. Then we're an atheist. So then there's no hope for us whatsoever. I'll just recount the case of one devotee. This was many years ago. Godbrother of mine. He told me that he thought, well, I just can't go on with this Krishna consciousness now. It's just, okay, just enough. So he told me, he tried to edit Krishna out of his life and just cut out of his memory all the years he'd spent in Krishna consciousness, got rid of his pictures of Krishna, his altar, and just became, to all appearances, a regular secularite, or a karmi, as we call them, or a non-devotee, a regular foolish materialist of this world. And he tried to convince him to block Krishna out of his life. There was just one thing though, the beads that Srila Prabhupada had given him, he just couldn't bring himself to get rid of them. He put everything away, he tried to be a complete materialist, but he just couldn't bring himself to fully discard the chanting beads that Srila Prabhupada had given him. So he kept them in a bead bag and he kept them hidden away. He put them in some place among all the junk or something. You store things that you don't need and put them away somewhere. Thought that at least I'll never see it again. But I guess in his heart he knew that at some point he would come across those beads again, and at some point he did, and just reminded him where he somehow he was sorting out all the junk or looking for something, and he came across his chanting beads again, and it just brought back so many memories, and they weren't so bad as he thought. That actually, what am I doing now? And what a degraded life, and I'm not happy. But at the same time, he was hesitant. He said, do I really want to go all the way back to Krishna? I want to surrender to Krishna. I'm not sure about that either. But he thought, anyway, I came across the beads, so let me chant one round a day. That was the beginning of the end of his sojourn in Maya. And he came back, took up the full chanting and everything like that. So even if we're so disappointed, we want to push Krishna out of our lives, it's going to be very, very difficult. We can have a tug of war in our minds. Shall I be Krishna conscious? Shall I not? Krishna's pulling us. Krishna's pulling us. So let Krishna take us in his arm. Let we hold on to Krishna as he picks us up. It can be rough love. There's a saying, tough love, where you can be harsh with someone for their benefit, because they need that. Mollycoddling is not a good policy. Real love doesn't mean sentimentalism and mollycoddling and just smiling at people and look. Smiling is there, but sometimes there's beating also. It may be, especially when we have so many stubborn attachments within our minds. So, times of disappointment, look at it philosophically through the eyes of Bhagavad Gita, through the eyes of eternity. I'm just one tiny little being in a tiny little situation, in a tiny blip in time, and this is going on. But Krishna is eternal, and my relationship with Krishna is eternal. And I shouldn't be misled away from Krishna by the present circumstances. In one sense, the present circumstances are irrelevant. What is relevant is my eternal relationship to Krishna. Krishna will help us, for sure, but don't take Krishna's help for granted. Don't think, well, okay, I had enough of Krishna, I'm just fed up, I can't go on Krishna conscious anymore. Anyway, Krishna will lift me up. Krishna's not obliged to lift us up. Krishna is merciful, no doubt, but he's not so cheap that you can, just like some prostitute or something, you can, when you want, you go to the prostitute, when you don't want. Not like that. Krishna wants our surrender. Surrender means forever. Signing a bond to Krishna. Now I'm yours forever. That's what Krishna is looking for. That will fully satisfy us. Yayatna suprasidati. Full surrender to Krishna will satisfy us. Anything less than that will not. What is the ultimate cause of our disappointment? That we're not fully surrendered to Krishna. We have to go forward. Whatever happens, we have to go forward on the path toward Krishna. Causes for disappointment? So many. Our minds are always bombarding us with all kinds of nonsense. The whole material world is bombarding us with all kinds of nonsense. Hold tight to the lotus feet of Krishna. How do we do that? Chant the holy names, hear about Krishna, associate with devotees who are serious on the path. Krishna is there. Don't be disappointed. Go forward. And those of you who are kindly listening to all this, when you see me in a mess, which is quite possible, I'm in a mess. I'm in the material world. You also have to help me. Everyone has to help everyone else. It's Sankirtan. It's not just me and Krishna. It's all of us. So I pray that you may get some inspiration from this talk to go forward. I hope it can help you. You also help me. We all need each other's help. Hare Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnava.